Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach. Ed Piskor was murdered 3 weeks ago on April 1st. About a week later, his family started this Ed Piskor's Legacy Instagram account, and then this weekend at a comic book shop in his hometown that he had mentioned many times on his show Cartoonist Kayfabe, they held a memorial. Now, I've mentioned dozens, 100 times that I watched this show, and for 4 years it was my morning routine. Go out before it gets too hot out, listen to, and it wasn't always like that days because I didn't always like the subjects, especially when he was talking about like indie comics or there's a genre I call booger comics. It's just like gross out stuff, and he loved booger comics. But anytime it was like, oh, those are booger comics, those are like just gross out weird indie shit, I don't care about that. But I never caught up on all of the videos I wanted to watch, and some of them are quite long. So I would usually listen. If it was a shorter video, I would listen to all of it. If it was a longer one, I would listen to part of it. And man, like, that was 4 years. That was as long as my enlistment active duty Marines, my enlistment active duty Army. That's a significant, portion of my life. And it was like good memories. It was like, because I loved to work in the yard, I liked the show, and it just became like part of my life. And then he was murdered, and everyone knew it was coming. It wasn't a sudden murder, it happened over a week. This is a kind of new type of murder that sometime very soon will be specifically illegal. It won't have the title of murder. It'll be like incitement to commit self-harm, first degree, which would be resulting in a death. But like I said, they have that saying, it takes 2 weeks to make or break a habit. Well, this was my habit for 4 years. So it's 3 weeks later, and I still wake up every day and I go to do my usual routine. And then I remembered that he was murdered. And then I remembered that nothing has happened, that the mainstream basically has memory hold it, that the people accused of his murder are mocking him, are mocking his legacy, saying he didn't have fans, that this is all fake. And for someone who has, loved comics, it's been a huge part of my life. Even when comics depresses me, what I do is I read comics. And I'm using comics in the broader sense of being an industry, being a fandom, being a medium, but especially after I saw, and I'll start going through it. So if you want to start looking at the screen, I'm going to be. This is the first post from 3 weeks ago. It just says, "We are Ed's family. We will be doing everything in our power to keep his legacy alive. Lots of plans coming soon." So showing him at different events. I didn't realize he was like a tall guy. I usually only see him like sitting at the desk on Cartoonist Kayfabe. So here's him at an event. This is announcing the memorial. Another announcement. This is him with Kirkman. It's run by his sister, so she says, "This was 2017. My brother knew what a huge Walking Dead fan I was, M. So when he saw Kirkman, this is what he sent me. He said, 'Kirkman wanted to FaceTime, but I knew you were at work.' I never let him hear the end of it." Okay, so it's just personal remembrances. Goofing around with his brother, and I really don't know which one is him. I think he's the one on the left. Visiting Japan. Him as a kid with his family. his book on store shelves, his nephews using his drawing table after he died. This is his sister saying that they finally received all of the artwork that was going to be at his gallery show. Very prestigious, basically making an entire career, and that was supposed to launch just days after he died. WYSIWYG, in my opinion, the best thing he ever did. Him and his sister. Here was a GoFundMe. It was about 3,000 short of its goal, and then Mark Millar covered all of that in one donation. This looks like him and Jim Rugg at a library giving a presentation. His sister, very proud, showing off his books at the local Barnes & Noble. And these are pictures from the memorial at one of his favorite stores that he mentioned all the time. I believe that's his brother right there. Jim Rugg and his sister. So this one, I saw it on the Cartoonist Kayfaber's Reddit last night. And obviously I've been thinking about this every day. Not all day long, but I'm thinking about it. And I was glad to see them smiling. This is a memorial. It's it's not a wake, it's not a funeral. So the attitude was very up, and I was very happy. This is the first I've seen of Jim since the murder, because you got to think about, like, it doesn't just affect Ed. Like, it affects Jim, it affects Ed's family, his fans, and I had a very, rough night. And this thought occurred to me, and I sent it off to some friends. And I said, I don't think comics is good anymore. I just kind of sent that. And everyone got it. Nobody was pulling like a Heidi McDonald, like, oh, are you saying that 20-page printed floppy comics that are stapled aren't good anymore? No, I'm talking about comics. Like, the industry, the fandom, the medium, like, what you think of this a comic store, these people collecting, like, that's comics. And it's like, I think this is good right here. But in general, comics, this thing I always had a very positive view of, I don't think it's good anymore. Good in the sense that you can recommend it. Good in the sense that you can feel that someone made a good decision. Good in the sense that you feel like it's safe, or that it is filled with good people. I think there's good people there. But as I was trying to, like, expand on my feelings, this phrase where I just said comics isn't good anymore, I thought that comics has slid. It has devolved. And I see it basically the same way that people look at, like, lawyers or journalists or telemarketers or politicians. Somebody says, like, oh, my sister's getting married. It's like, oh, how's the guy? It's like, well, he's a lawyer. You go like, eh. Or you say, like, he's a telemarketer. You go, eh. If someone said, like, oh, he works in comics, I'd be like, oh, God, he's probably one of two things. He's like this far left activist tattletale bully, or just this complete spineless wimp who just keeps his head down, doesn't say anything, and that's it. Now, comics obviously wasn't perfect before this. There were jerks, there were blowhards, there were bullies, but, like, it wasn't like this. I've told this story a million times, and it's very quaint. But, like, when I first got into collecting comics, people would tell horror stories about meeting John Byrne. And the horror stories were, they went to a convention, and he signed books for free, but he had a limit. But the limit was very high. It was like 10 or 20 books. But he would only sign his own books. You couldn't just bring a random Superman book. Like, it had to be one that he worked on. So he would, the signatures were free, the limit was very high. It was like 10 to 20 books, and it had to be one of his. And then they would be like, he's really mean. And you'd be like, oh, how is he mean? And and they would be like, when I said thank you, he grumbled, you're welcome, but he didn't look up at me. And like these people, they were heartbroken. And we were like consoling them. We were like, oh man, that's so rough that happened to you. That you got free autographs, 20 of them. And he responded and said you're welcome, but he didn't look up at you. Like, and now they fucking kill people. They kill people. When I was in the military, on active duty, and this was kind of before the, veterans killed themselves, and that was like common knowledge. There was, going way back to like 2000, there was suicide awareness training, and there were practices. And it was like, basically, if anyone said anything about suicide, even as a joke, it's like, hey, you're going down to Main Side, you're going to go talk to someone. And it would even happen if like everyone acknowledged, you'd be talking to the LT, you'd be like, no, sir, like that was a joke. It was a reference. It was an in-joke. It was like referring to a joke from a movie. And he'd be like, look, this is the rules. Anyone talks about suicide, you go down to the hospital right there on Main Side, or you go down to Balboa if it looks like you're actually going to do it. So several times, had to escort someone down to Main Side, or if they had looked like they were going to do it, you take them down to Balboa, down there in San Diego. In the Army, it would be like, we would literally have like suicide watch. Some guy gets a notice, his wife cheated, she's leaving him, she stole all his money. Guess what? We're all taking turns watching this guy. Now, it was with a lot of gallows humor of the infantry, but like somehow all of these people, mainly in their 20s, could have the empathy, the responsibility to look out for their fellow Marines, for their fellow soldiers. It wasn't done to Ed. He had these allegations, and Alex DeCampi decided, hey, you know what? Let's just say that this alt, which wasn't even his alt, because it's still posting after he's dead, we're going to say this one guy is his alt. And so the original allegations, they're not enough. Ed was also a racist, and he was sexist, and he was engaging in homophobia. And I always imagine like suicide as like, you have like the cliffs of Dover. Like it's all kind of like level, and then it's like these straight cliffs like 100 meters down to the ground. And the average person is, if you're not suicidal at all, you're like 100 meters away from the edge. And I don't know, the average person is probably just rocking around 50 meters away from the edge. Someone who is not in the right headspace, like Ed, I visualize him like 3 meters away from the edge. But 3 meters isn't 3 feet. You can fall down, the wind can blow you down. You're not going to go over the edge. But what specifically Alex DeCampi and Ramon Villalobos did is they kept nudging Ed closer to the edge. And then he fell off, and they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. We didn't want this to happen. Ramon Villalobos, in that fucking just straight up evil note that he wrote this same day of the murder, where he was like, thoughts and prayers to the family. I was just trying to give him a chance to be a better man. Guess he didn't want to do the work. I've said this story many times. When I left Afghanistan, or right before, like the last patrol, the last bomber that we caught, I made sure to take a mental snapshot of him. And I said to myself, this is the last evil man I will ever meet. And it wasn't true. I have met or been aware of. This isn't like, this person's kind of a jerk. This person is like, it's like, these people torture others and they enjoy it. And they tried to get people to kill themselves for years. They tried to get me to kill myself for years. And they tried with Ed, and it took a week. And they're giggling. Ramon is giggling. He's making blind item jokes about it. 2.5 weeks after the murder, after he himself was named as one of Ed's murderers in a suicide note. And I just keep coming back to the phrase, I don't think comics is good anymore. I think it was good. I think there was goodness in it. There are exceptions. This right here is good. You know, not everyone is bad, but I can't recommend comics to anyone. Certainly not as a career, not even a part-time career. I can't even recommend it as a hobby. Oh my God, if you say one thing, look how mild Glenn, the retailer, look at how mild his comments were about just writing. He didn't even single anyone out. And you saw, oh, it's Ramon Villalobos again, salami breathed hog, Jamal Igle. He looks like he smells like piss. He's very similar to this store run by notorious racists. The risk versus reward for comics is horrible. There's this artist, a friend showed it to me. He's like, hey, are you aware of this artist? I was like, what the fuck? This guy's the next Joe Mad. What's he doing? Oh, he's drawing titty pics on Patreon, and he's making $20,000 a month. And nobody's trying to get him to kill himself. Nobody's manually scrolling through his tweets from 10 years ago. He's doing $20,000 a month to, you know, what? Not even 2,000 backers. And he does commissions, and he's just living his best life. And I was like, this guy should be on the X-Men. This guy should be on Spider-Man. This guy, and I'm sure when he was learning how to draw, that was his plan. Who's going to look at the industry right now? Fucking Ramon Villalobos. You need to make a statement, Jim. It looks like you're complicit, Jim. Who the fuck are you? You're just this sociopath bully. And this isn't like a one-off. This isn't a surprise. They've been slowly building this technological terror, this Death Star, for 10 fucking years. We've slowly seen it be constructed. We've seen the huge, dish put onto it. Oh, what is it? What is that like for satellite TV? Oh no, this is the laser, and it shoots the lasers and it blows up planets. I mean, yeah, but you won't. And so they would test it. They tested on me. They tested on all these people. Finally, they got it to full power. They go, we know what to do. If someone trips up, then we can do this, this, and this, and then it's over. And then when they kill themselves, we go, well, he must have been guilty. He just must have been filled with so much guilt. Or he realized he would never have any peace for the rest of his life, so he said, I'm just gonna limit it. I've been going to this Cartoonist Kayfabers Reddit every day. It's been very cathartic. They're really good people, and they're working through it. The general consensus is, if Ed would have not received so much pressure, he would be alive. He would have been depressed, He would have had to rebuild, but he would have been alive. Pretty much everyone agrees that this was survivable. But again, they couldn't just give him some time. They had to push. Alec DeCampi had to have more allegations. Ramon Villalobos had to have his partner distance himself professionally. Like I said before in other videos, I understand the position that Jim was put in. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a teacher, and he knows, it's flat out, Ramon said complicit. That means he's an accomplice. That means if he doesn't put out a statement, the next thing they do is they go to where he works, and they remove his ability to provide for his family. So he did a statement, but it was just like, I'm going to distance myself professionally. Ed still, in his suicide note, said, Jim appeared on his porch, gave him a hug, said, I love you. But it was also clear from the suicide note that the the public statement really, really wounded him. And the public statement came about because Ramon Villalobos, along with Alec DeCampi, along with Daryl Ayo, along with all those people and more that were mentioned in Ed's suicide note, they've been building this Death Star for 10 years. And nobody said shit because when it was tested at a lower wattage, they're like, oh, well, I didn't like that guy. Oh, well, I didn't like that guy either. Oh, this is good. This is good. It's cool you're building a Death Star. It's cool you're building a device. And again, as I've said a million fucking times, Twitter is not supposed to be a torture chamber. It's not supposed to be a kangaroo court. It was basically made so that like tech bros could organize. It's like, oh, we're going to do a coding boot camp. Oh, we're going to do a lock-in, 24 hours of coding. Or we're doing a social mixer. And then when they like put it out for like, you know, normies, it was made so like people in line at the grocery store, like housewives, could be like, ooh, Mario Lopez has just shared a picture of his abs. These are absolutely hot. Like, that's what it was for. It wasn't supposed to be a torture chamber. It wasn't supposed to be a court. There is no justice in social justice. What happened is sociopaths realized, oh shit, I can pretend to care about people while killing people, while torturing people, while seeing someone who clearly, did anyone think that Ed wasn't suicidal as soon as the allegations came out, as soon as the gallery dropped him, as soon as Fantagraphics dropped him? Did anyone say, like, he's going to be fine? I was having conversations with my friends who were like, he's going to kill himself. And there were people who went through this. Brandon Graham did a great, I don't know what you call it. It's like a one-page story type of thing, like a visual essay. And he said he contacted him. And Brandon Graham has been put through that suicide machine that they built, which is just really a murder machine, but they're murdering you with your own hand. Brian Wood was warning about this almost a decade ago. I've spent years, and that's why I say comics isn't good. Y'all watched this thing be constructed. You were happy when it was tested at a lower wattage on people you didn't like. And then it got to full power. They finally got to do what they always wanted to do, which was get people to kill themselves. There was no castigation. There was no investigation. There was no reflection. The only people I saw reflect on it, like, hey, did we contribute to making things worse? What should we do in the future? How would we have done it differently? The only people I saw do that was me, Wes from Thinking Critical, and Aaron Sparrow. Nobody else. And then, a week ago, the whole fucking industry rallied around Tom Taylor because two edgy teenagers printed out photos of him and then lit them on fire and posted the pictures on Twitter. And the whole fucking industry stopped to protect this middle-aged man from a couple of edgy teens. 2 weeks after, two of their peers, among others, drove a man to suicide. He identified them, and nothing fucking happened. Comics is not good. This is not an industry with good people. There's a smattering of bullies, and there's a whole bunch of fucking cowards. I never really liked the Western genre. My dad, my grandpa, they would watch it all the time. Basically all men did back then. I was always so confused because like every single episode of every show was the same. It was literally either one guy or a gang, which was usually like 3 to 5 guys, and they would take over an entire town, just have the whole town terrified. They never stood up for themselves. They never stood up for anyone. They stood up for Tom Taylor getting burned in effigy on Twitter by a couple of edgy teens. But nobody said shit to Alex DeCampi or Ramon Villalobos. They did the opposite. They soothed them. Hey, I hear you're dealing with those chuds. You're having a rough week. They totally played into it. It's like, yeah, it's a tough week, but I have tough skin. No, you're a sociopath. You don't have human emotions, so you can participate in what Ed identified as a murder. And then you can just go about your merry way. And nothing happens, and nothing will happen. Since then, both Alex and Ramon have been announced for, what would have been the next thing they did. Everything's just continuing apace. The whole industry can stop multiple times over multiple years because Heather Ontos had like a handful of people doing a thumbs down on her milkshake selfie. Tom Taylor, smug ass, gets two edgy teens not liking how he writes Batgirl. The whole fucking industry shows up to defend this asshole. Ed Piskor gets murdered. It's like nothing. Crickets. Soothing the people accused of murdering him. By him. Comics is not good anymore. It was good for a long time. It's not good anymore. And this isn't like, oh, I'm going to protest. I'm not protesting any group that I just stay away from. Nobody's like, oh, I want to go hang out with some lawyers. Does anyone know any telemarketers? No, I just avoid these people like the plague. But it's really heartbreaking. It is really heartbreaking to see something be built and then something be built to destroy that thing. And there's no value in social media as a torture chamber. There's no value in social media as a kangaroo court. There's no fucking value. Where the fuck did Alex DeCampi come from? She reminds me of like Randall Flagg or something like that. She was just this entity on the outskirts of town. And then as she started walking into town, she started, assuming a human form. Why the fuck is a failed music video director like the terror of an entire industry? How the fuck does that happen? But it's what happened. I mean, there's not one single reason. It happens slowly over time. More than enough time for men, and this is why men exist, to be men, to step up and be like, hey, what the fuck? Hey, this happened like a couple times and I was kind of busy or I wasn't aware of it, but like, you're trying to get this guy to kill himself. Like, I kind of saw it with that Zach guy, but I was like, I was out skiing. This would be like Jim Lee. He's always out skiing somewhere. I heard he said some jerky things, but like, it's been like almost a decade of this. This is clearly a plan. You clearly have a goal. And also, who the fuck are you? You wrote like Archie comics like 10 years ago? Why is everyone scared of you? Fuck off. And I did a video a couple weeks ago. I was like, there was, it's too late now, but there was a real easy way. You just have a policy against bigoteering. Bigoteering is stuff like you see from Alex DeCampi and stuff like you see from Heather Ontos and Tess Fowler and all of these people, where they get up every single day to accuse, oh, this person's a racist, this person's... And the thing is, nobody's ever just one thing. Nobody's ever, like, just a racist or just a sexist. They're all every bad thing. And nobody ever says, like, hey, fuckheads. This industry is entertainment. You make a book, it's entertaining, it sells, then hopefully the next month, word of mouth, it sells more. And then if the sales go up and the word of mouth is good, then more stores will open and it'll like work its way out into the community. All of a sudden, like, oh, there's a comic book store. I never went to a comic book store. Well, they're getting really popular. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about Watchmen? Have you heard about The Dark Knight Returns? Have you heard about Crisis on Infinite Earths? Have you seen this guy, Todd McFarlane? He draws all these webs on Spider-Man. It looks so crazy. Not, Hey, is this you? Is this tweet from 12 years ago? Is that you? Are you friends with this person who was friends with this person who was friends with this person who was a bad person? They kill now. And it's been 3 weeks and nothing has happened from the mainstream industry besides ignoring it, soothing the people that are accused of his murder, and circling the wagons to protect this smug asshole from getting a few tweets from edgy teens. Edgy, autistic, gay teens, self-admitted, which is supposedly the new audience. Comics isn't good anymore. It was. I mean, this is 2004. It was good. People were still good. There was no support of or putting up with torture and murder and mockery after one's death. It's not good. I can't recommend it to anyone. Not as a job, not as a hobby. It's not good. And I don't see how it can be good anymore. What are you going to do? Like, suddenly, after ignoring a murder that was clearly about to happen, soothing the people accused, looking the other way when they mock the dead? Like, what are you going to do? Good turnout at the memorial. I was really happy to see these people happy and not broken. Tom Scioli getting older, a luxury that Ed does not have. Showing off his art, showing him at a signing. And then this one right here is a picture of his desk. And the caption is, "Just the way you left it, my brother." This was a way to test out his brushes, his pens. So that's why you just see these lines and scribbles and warm-up drawings. And this was ready for the next day. The next day that didn't come because people who had turned social media into a torture chamber, into a kangaroo court, into a technological terror. They had built it, they had refined it, they had honed it. They saw the perfect opportunity. They're like, oh shit, look at these set of allegations. He's so fucking close to the edge. We can get him closer. And they did. And now they're laughing about it. And nothing happened. And I can't recommend comics. Not as a job, not as a hobby, not even the comics themselves. If you read them and find them and you like them, that's great. There's 80 years of good comics to read. There is still some stuff, yes, even from Marvel, even from DC, there is still some stuff, not much, but some. But it's not something I can look at as being good, or even neutral. I look at comics the same way I look at, the same way that people look at, like, lawyers or televangelists or politicians. There's just something wrong with the people there, for the most part. It's not a place that I would send anyone that I care about. And it's tragic and it's heartbreaking, and there are people who have committed acts of evil that I did not see in 2 Desert Wars, and they're giggling and they're getting promoted. And Ed's dead. He's dead. He was a real... That's the thing that fucking drives me fucking nuts. I did a whole hour-long video of this, but it was just me cursing for an hour, so I deleted it. But, like, he does this thing where he's like, I'm a real person. There's a real person on the other end of this account. There's a real person on the end of every account. You guys have watched a new form of torture, a new form of justice, a new form of murder be built slowly over a decade. And then when it was used in the way it was designed, in its optimal operation, which was getting someone to kill themselves, you didn't say a goddamn thing. You soothed the people accused of murder, and now you're doing nothing while they're moving on, and laughing at him. There are good people out there. There's just not enough. And comics isn't good anymore. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.